Good Friday afternoon, and welcome to a Feel Good Friday and Red Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you for the next 3 hours as we get you ready for a busy football weekend, both on the college and NFL front and on the high school front, too. We've got our 580 Preps High School Football Game of the Week coming up tonight, right here on 580 WIBW and FM News 104.9. We've got some small school action tonight. A little 1A football just to our west-northwest, as we've got the St. Mary's Bears, 7-2 on the year out of the Mid-East League, winners of their district this year, District 4 in Class 1A, District 3, excuse me. They are taking on the 8-1 Trojans of Troy from far up in northeast Kansas. 7 o'clock kickoff, 6:30 pregame right here on 580 WIBW and, of course, on FM News 104.9 as well. That should be a barn burner of a game. I took a look around the entire state. That is tied for the second best combined record of any playoff matchup this weekend.
I'm excited for it. The field should hold up well. St. Mary's has the field turf surface, so no worries about the grass, a grass field, how it might be impacted by the substantial and steady rainfall we've gotten throughout our area and the surrounding area for pretty much unceasingly all day today. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing this St. Mary's team and looking forward to seeing the Troy Trojans of Troy, parentheses, we're from Troy, end parentheses.
There are going to be, at least on paper, a lot of points scored in this game. You've got one quarterback who has scored, if I'm counting correctly here, and I believe that I am, he has accounted for, it would be 35 touchdowns this season. You've got another quarterback who has accounted for 39 touchdowns this season. There are going to be a lot of points scored in this game, so we're excited for that. It's coming up tonight again, 7 o'clock kickoff here on 580 WIBW. Coming your way on the show today, again, from now until 6 o'clock, we'll get you our Chiefs keys to the game coming up here in just a moment as the Chiefs get ready to take on the Tennessee Titans coming up on Sunday Night Football. So we'll preview that matchup for you. We've also got Matt Derrick joining us at the bottom of this hour for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Plus, we'll play a round of Change My Mind coming up here in just a little bit. We'll also get to our Big 12 picks for the weekend, and we will let you know what our picks competition selections are for the week. And I think we mentioned it on Monday, but we've got to mention it now as well. Congrats to Dan, because for the first time all season, someone has surpassed Fulton outright for the lead in our picks competition, which, if you know anything about Fulton and his ability to pick sporting events, that is somewhat miraculous that he made it that long without being usurped.
It really and truly is.
Really is. But we have a new leader. Jake and I are just 3 back. Fulton's only 1 back of the lead, so we'll get you all of our picks. We'll also break down why is KU favored this weekend. It has moved the point spread 1.5 since about 2 a.m. It is now at KU minus 1.5 for this game. And by the same token, why is Kansas State an underdog at home? We will break all of that down coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. Ty Zentner, the kicker, punter, kickoff specialist, Mr. Do Everything special teamer for K-State. He's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour as well. We'll look ahead to our best bets for the weekend, preview of the full slate for the NFL in Week 9 coming up on Sunday, headlines, what is wrong with you, all that is coming your way here on 580 Sports Talk today. We would love for you to be a part of the show on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is your text line number. And, of course, don't forget, you can interact with us throughout the show on our live stream on YouTube as well. That's right, folks. Sports on 580 WIBW. That's our YouTube channel. We are live streaming the show, so you can go check us out right now. You can see Dan and myself. I'm rocking the KU hoodie today from our pals at Home Field. The old school 1941 Jayhawk, the War Jayhawk.
I would like to speak to the manager Jayhawk is how I refer to that one.
And I've got, you wore your Wichita Wind Surge hat yesterday. I've got mine today. It's got the regular logo on it. But
the primary, if you will. My hat today is an old standby. It's my Quebec Nordiques hat.
That's classic.
Obviously, that's who the Colorado Avalanche were before they were the Colorado Avalanche. They're playing right now in Finland, like right this second. They're in the third period.
Who are they playing?
Columbus. They're playing 2 games against Columbus in Finland.
Are there a lot of Finns on either or both teams?
each team has a star player who is a Finn. Patrick Laine for Columbus, Mikko Rantanen for Colorado. But it is part of the NHL's global series. They take two teams and they play them in Europe or
makes sense
parts abroad once a year. And this year, it's the Avalanche Blue Jackets in Finland. Avs up 3-2 heading to the third period. Both of the Finns, incidentally, have scored.
Hey, how about that?
Actually, the Avs have two Finns. They have Arturi Lehkonen, too. Anyway, that's enough hockey talk. Sorry.
Also, if you're watching on the YouTube today, you'll see I am clean shaven. I finally shaved that disgusting filth off my face. I don't know. We'll get to the Chiefs here in just a second, I promise. But I don't know what happened last night. I showered like 1 a.m. or so, maybe a little before. About 12:30.
Okay.
Because I got home from the KU game, had to get the stuff up on the website, edit the audio from the press conference and all that. Worked out a little bit, jumped in the shower. I'm like, I should clean up for the game tomorrow night. I cut my whole face, like chin, sides, back here, under the cheek, everything was cut. It looked like a war zone. I have no idea. I've never cut myself shaving that much my whole life. And I had blood all over my face last night. It was gross. I thought you should know that.
I'm relieved that you did not seriously injure yourself. What did you have, a case of the Gunnar Gundies? Were your hands shaking? Like, what's going on here?
I guess I don't know. Like, I have a 14 blade razor or whatever because I'm a coward and I don't want to cut my face. Then I did anyway.
One of the all-time great Onion headlines: "Bleep it, we're doing 5 blades" by Gillette.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I think mine's a Bic, not a Gillette. Anyway. That's beside the point. All right, we've got Kansas City Chiefs to get to, so let's get to it. If you want to see all the shenanigans, of course, check us out on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW, and, of course, you're listening here on 580 WIBW and FM News 104.9. All right, time to get to the Chiefs. Our keys to the game for Sunday, Chiefs versus the Titans. The line, depending on what sportsbook you go to for it, is around 11.5 points right now. The Chiefs are a steady, heavy favorite, no matter how you look at it. My first key is on the defensive side of the ball. And it's pretty simple. The Titans are going to play either a banged up / sick Ryan Tannehill, who is already not at the peak of his powers because he's old, and we saw as last year went on and so far this year, he's just not the guy he was at his peak a couple years ago, even last year for part of the season. Or you're getting a rookie in Malik Willis, who last week on a scale of 100 had a QBR under 5. He was 4.4 last week? That is awful. Truly, truly awful. And he was a known project going into this year regardless. So no matter who you're facing at quarterback, you can completely turn this game on its head if you are able to generate plenty of pressure. And I frankly don't care how Steve Spagnuolo's unit is able to get pressure, whether they just send 4, they get the edges and Chris Jones to get there, whether they bring L'Jarius Sneed a ton out of the secondary, bring Leo Chanel a bunch. I really don't care what you have to do, but it's pretty simple. Generate pressure, put Malik Willis in a difficult spot, or just hit Ryan Tannehill because he's not as mobile and as effective on the run as he has been earlier on in his career. I think that is going to pretty much lead to domination for this Chiefs defense. Generate pressure all game long because we know the Titans are going to run the ball a lot. We know they're going to feed Derrick Henry a lot. You cannot run the ball on every single play. You cannot do it. I know the Patriots got close a couple of seasons ago, or I guess that was last season. You can't do that, generally speaking, and the Titans aren't going to. So whenever they drop back, get someone in either Tannehill or Willis's face.
And I think the Chiefs have a track record that suggests they can do okay against Henry. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are going to give up 314 rushing yards like the Texans did to the Titans last week. They just have to keep Henry in check. He's going to have a big play or two, a strong run or two. But when you put the Titans in a must-pass situation, that's where George Karlaftis and Carlos Dunlap and Chris Jones and Mike Dana are going to really have to pin their ears back and get after whoever it is, again, at quarterback. Because remember, no Frank Clark for this one.
I was going to say, that is an important point with this. And that's why, hey, if you get home with the regular 4 up front, fine. If he takes blitzes, whatever, that is key. I think for Henry, you can let him have a big day. I mean, you just can't have it be 170 yards on 20 carries. Like, he can even get to 100 yards. Is it 100 on 18 carries or 25 carries? Because that's over a yard difference. That completely changes what an offense looks like. So he can have a big day. Let Tennessee bang its head against the wall all game long. That's totally fine. It's just a matter of don't give up the big chunk runs.
That leads to my first key to the game. The Titans would love for this game to be a game with very few possessions. And they're going to do, I think, whatever they have to do to make sure that there are not a lot of possessions in this game. So for the Chiefs, you want to make the most of the possessions that you get. Well, how do you do that? Well, you convert on third down. If you were listening to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, when he joined us yesterday about 5:35 on the program, he told us that the Kansas City Chiefs are the best third down team in the league right now. The Titans are the best third down defense in the league, and not by a little bit either. Like, they're well clear of the field, how well they're doing on third down. Now, some of this is what do we always talk about? Getting pressure with 4 or 5 rushers. Titans have been pretty good at that this year. Now, Jeffrey Simmons didn't practice all week. He's listed as questionable. I think he's going to play, but it looks like it will be more of a rotational role than usual, kind of like it was against the Texans last week. But even in a rotational role, Simmons is a game wrecker. He had 7 pressures on 38 snaps last week, and he's going to try and do something very similar against an offensive line that, to hear him tell it, he doesn't think is very good, and that he's really looking forward to going up and playing against. So, second time this year, an opponent who has previous success against the Chiefs, offering the Chiefs offensive line some bulletin board material that didn't work out super awesome for Shaq Barrett and the Buccaneers. We'll see how it works out for Jeffrey Simmons and the Titans. But back to my point, third downs. Chiefs have to win on third downs. When talking to Mitch yesterday, he said, look, 4-yard gains are going to be acceptable on first down. 4-yard gains on first and second down, those are wins because they put you in more manageable third downs, give you a chance to sustain drives. The Chiefs offense has to win the money down. If they do that, I think they're going to be too efficient on offense for the Titans to be able to keep up with over the course of 60 minutes.
Number 2 headline for me, offensive side of the ball here. I want to see the Chiefs continue to spread the ball around a little bit. I think the offense is playing extremely well right now, but I think a big part of that is the fact that multiple people are getting involved in multiple ways. We have hit on this point for so long this year, Dan, that you've got a bunch of unique or at least different or differing skills between all of your different pass catchers. Yes, Travis Kelce can pretty much do everything. He's not a burner necessarily from tight end, but he's got great hands, great route runner, powerful after the catch. He can do all those things. Juju Smith-Schuster, physical slot, big slot, great blocker as well, great on the out routes. He's been really good on some of the over-the-middle stuff recently, too. You've got that as an option there. MVS, boom, great deep threat. I think you can get Sky Moore a little bit more involved. We spoke recently, I think it was last week, going into the bye, about how you can do some different things with where you line up Sky Moore. Take him out of the backfield a little bit, keep him in the slot, flip him around, jet motion, whatever it takes. You've got so many different guys. Screen game with Jet McKinnon. All of these different skill sets are at your disposal. I think this offense has been and will continue to be at its best when you use all of them in a single game. Not that I think Patrick Mahomes is going to lock in on Travis Kelce and say no one else gets more than 2 targets the rest of the game, but I think drawing up different things to get all these different pass catchers involved. Hell, Justin Watson as a designed target for more red zone plays because he's got a couple touchdowns this year. He can be an effective weapon in that part of the field. Jet sweeps with McCole Hardman. I'm just throwing out these various things these guys can do. So allow them to do it. Mix it up. I'm not saying run the ball a ton because we know Andy Reid's not going to, but mix it up. Get these guys the ball in different ways that fit their skill sets the best. And I think this offense is going to have a pretty crisp game. And that's really pertinent, not for this contest alone, but for every game the rest of the way.
The last time we saw the Chiefs play a game, it was a masterful play calling exhibition by Andy Reid that allowed them to score 44 points against a excellent, banged up, but still excellent 49ers defense. They took what the 49ers did and they weaponized it against them. They used their aggressiveness against them and bit them with those end around plays, bit them with those screen plays, that huge 3rd and 20 conversion to Jerick McKinnon in the third quarter of that game. So I think given an extra week to prepare, we can see something very similar and see the Chiefs do things that are designed to exploit the weaknesses that the Titans might have on defense. One weakness we know they're going to be down one of their starting safeties. Monty Hooker will not play. He's been ruled out for Sunday. So that's a potential weakness. Could mean there are some more plays available down the field or in that middle third where Patrick Mahomes really likes to throw the ball. So I'm curious to see what it does look like, but I mean, we know Andy Reid's track record coming off of a bye. We saw what they came up with for the San Francisco defense.
Yep.
I'm pretty confident they can come up with something similar that'll keep Tennessee's defense off balance for most of the afternoon or the evening.
I feel like, Sunday Night Football. I do think, too, San Francisco's defense is more so, wow, there are whole groups of dudes who are studs here. Obviously, they've got individuals who are great talents, but you think, damn, that entire defensive line for San Francisco is so good. That linebacker core is so good. Tennessee, at least to me, and maybe if we covered the team, I would feel a little bit differently about this, but it feels like Tennessee is more so, they've got several nice pieces. Like Bud Dupree, solid edge rusher. Jeffrey Simmons, really good interior defensive lineman. But I don't look at their defensive line and think, man, that whole group is just a bunch of studs. That is a great unit of a defensive line. I don't think, man, that secondary is just a great unit in general. It feels like they are more just pieces, and I think the Chiefs are built to tear apart defense that are built like that.
My second key to the game, we've alluded to this all week. When you play against the Tennessee Titans, Mike Vrabel is going to have his team well prepared, both physically and mentally, and they are not going to make big mistakes. They're not a team that puts themselves behind the chains or gives you a lot of free first downs. They're not a team that's going to put themselves in a spot to turn the ball over a lot or make those field flipping plays. So the Chiefs better not either. No free possessions, no putting themselves behind the chains leading to punts. Don't give this outstanding defense a chance to force you off the field on 3rd and longs because you committed a first down holding penalty or something like that. Mistake-free football is it's an oxymoron because nobody plays a perfect football game. But if the Chiefs avoid the big mistake, they should have better players both sides of the ball and be able to win this game.
With that, let's get to big Chief picks for today. Who you got?
I didn't write mine down. I'm just realizing that in the rundown. I was neglectful in my duties, and I failed to write one down. I'm going Nick Bolton as my big Chief. And the reason I'm going with Nick Bolton is I think he's going to be the most critical player on the Chiefs' run defense. The only scenario I see in which the Chiefs lose this game is Derrick Henry goes ballistic. He has one of those games that we've seen him have over the course of his career where he just puts the offense on his back and rushes for something like he said, 160, 170. I think the Chiefs are a good enough run defense to keep that from happening and keep him largely in check. But if they want to win this game with ease, which I think is possible for them, I mean, there's a reason the spread is what it is. It's going to be Nick Bolton and friends tackling Derrick Henry, keeping him from turning that 4-yard gain into that 8-yard gain or that 7-yard gain into that 20-yard gain. That's going to be most critical, I think, for the Chiefs. So that's why I'm going to make Nick Bolton my big Chief. Also, maybe Ryan Tannehill will throw him one and he'll pick it off. I just got a feeling something over the middle might be an interception for a linebacker on Sunday. Just a gut feeling I have.
I will give you an interesting stat here. I'll let you guess an interesting stat. What do you think Derrick Henry's average yards rushing per game are against the Chiefs?
Average rushing yards per game?
Average rushing yards per game. He's played the Chiefs 3 times.
I will say yards per carry or yards per game?
Yards per game.
Yards per game? Yeah, it's around 100, isn't it?
110. 110.7. That's actually the 4th best against any team in his career. The only teams that have given up more on a per game basis, the Texans, not surprising, the Seahawks, that's just in 2 meetings, and the New York Giants in 2 meetings. But again, you've also got examples recently of the Chiefs figuring out an answer, and that's kind of the trend with Steve Spagnuolo defenses, right? Is that early on, they struggle. The longer you're in them, the better they look. That's pretty much been his entire career. I would imagine they will have an answer. And this will be the 4th meeting against the same running back. That doesn't always happen against a team not in your own division. So I do think the Chiefs are going to have an answer for him. I'm going to go back to my original point about generating pressure. I think Chris Jones is my big Chief for this game. Get in the quarterback's face. You can run the ball with Derrick Henry 30 times in this game. You're going to have to pass at least a few of them. You're going to have to throw it at least, 15 times probably in this game? Get someone in the face of Tannehill or Willis every one of those 15 times. Chiefs are going to be just fine in this game defensively, even if Henry does have 100-ish, 100-plus yards in the contest. All right, who's your win and who's your cover pick for this week?
I am making my prediction with the thought that Ryan Tannehill will play, although it is being reported that he'll be a game-time decision.
Okay.
I am making my pick based on the belief that Tannehill is going to give it a go. I think the spread, and by the way, it is back up. It has fluctuated just today. It went down to 11.5 at FanDuel. It is now back to 12.5.
Back to 12.5.
12.5 point favorites, which could be an indication that maybe there's the expectation that Tannehill doesn't play. But I think it's too many points against a team that's won 5 in a row and is as good on defense as the Titans are. So I like the Titans to cover,
Okay.
But I think the Chiefs do win. I've got the Chiefs 28-17, and that's over the 44.5 points.
I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover and the Chiefs to win in this one. Give me 31-17 Kansas City. I don't have any worries about the offense in this game. Really not. I mean, I don't have that many worries about the defense. I think a 2-touchdown win is a pretty sound win in the NFL. And this doesn't really feel like the kind of game that's going to be, oh, the Chiefs barely pulled away late. That's why they won by 2 touchdowns. I think the Chiefs are going to win handily in this game. The offense is going to do fine. It really comes down to, can Nick Bolton, can Willie Gay, who sounds like he'll be a full go, but is coming back from being banged up, are those guys going to be able to stop Derrick Henry after 4 or 5 yards as opposed to after 7 or 8 yards per carry? You do run the risk, I suppose, of the occasional deep ball. That is the strength of Malik Willis. He's got a cannon. We saw that when he was at Liberty. If you ever saw Malik Willis college highlight, it was probably him throwing the ball 60 yards in the air. He's got an arm. So you do run the risk of, hey, don't let one of your young guys get burned now that your secondary is extremely young. So there's the risk of that. I think the Chiefs are going to be just fine, though. So I'll take them by 14, 31-17. That's the Chiefs on the money line, the Chiefs to cover whatever spread you get them at, and over 44.5 points.
In fact, at FanDuel right now, the over-under has actually jumped a point as well to 45.5. So I guess I'm going under.
45.5. Man, I think that's a better number. It did feel a little bit low. I saw a few numbers this week, and I thought, man, even for where the NFL is right now with scoring, some of these numbers feel kind of low.
Like, I have a lot of I don't think Ryan Tannehill's an elite quarterback by any means, but he played well against the Chiefs last year, and I think he can keep his offense competitive. You have to respect his threat a little bit more than if it's Malik Willis. If it's Malik Willis, they're going to run a high school offense on Sunday.
Yeah.
They're just going to pound it. And in that case, yes, bet the under and bet the Chiefs to cover.
We'll take your picks for the game all day long in the YouTube comments, Sports on 580 WIBW on the live stream. Plus, send them in to the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. Let's take a break. Matt Derrick will join us later on this hour, but first, we'll get to Change My Mind coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Time for a quick round to change my mind here on 580 Sports Talk before we get to our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider with Matt Derrick. All right, I'm going to go to the biggest college football game of the weekend. To change my mind, Tennessee beats Georgia on Saturday.
I think Tennessee is real good. Spoiler alert for a segment we'll do a bit later on. I think they'll cover the 8.5 points. My argument for Georgia is this. Tennessee hasn't seen a defense like this.
Yeah.
It is the most complete defense in the country, and we don't know how Hendon Hooker and company are going to respond to seeing that level of defense. Also, Tennessee's secondary kind of stinks. And against a veteran quarterback with some of the weapons that Stetson Bennett has at his disposal, including Brock Bowers, there's a chance Georgia can really stretch the field and put some stress on Tennessee's defense. I mean, even in the game, the biggest win they have to date, Bryce Young picked them apart. Anthony Richardson of Florida, who alternates brilliance with utter disaster at quarterback. He had a monster game against the Tennessee secondary. So that is my concern, is that Georgia can make plays down the field on that secondary and that they can keep Hooker and company in check.
I think Tennessee's got a very legitimate chance to win this game. I really do. You've got the Heisman Trophy winner, or favorite, I would say. I mean, he is officially in Vegas now. He is the betting favorite, Hendon Hooker. You've always got a chance in a big game like this. I will say, to the point you're making, this is a Tennessee secondary that's been iffy. They have not faced a defense like Georgia all year. They've also not faced an offensive playmaker like Brock Bowers before. Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama, really, really good. I'm not talking quarterbacks here, but skill position players, quote unquote. Jahmyr Gibbs, Alabama, really freaking good. Keyshawn Boutte, or Booty, I guess he goes by now, at LSU, really talented. Nobody's got the combination of size, speed, hands, all of that like Brock Bowers does at Georgia. I still think he might be one of the two best players in college football this year. I think Tennessee's got a real chance. It's going to be darn close, though. I can't wait for that one. That's going to be a blast coming up at 2:30 on Saturday.
Going to be an awesome game. Philadelphia Eagles beat the Houston Texans 29-17 last night. They did not cover. The over hit by half a point because the Eagles went for 2 after their touchdown in the fourth quarter. I'm sure that swung some money in one direction or another. The Eagles are 8-0. They're the only unbeaten team in the NFL. Changed my mind. They're running the table, 17-0.
Their schedule, and I'm pulling it up right now, is not horrendous.
It stinks, actually. The toughest game they have left is their trip to Dallas on Christmas Eve.
And that is a tough game.
It is.
You've got a handful of divisional games left. They're clearly better than the Giants. They're clearly better than the Commanders. They play the Giants twice, in fact. I think they're better than the Cowboys. That is going to be tough against the Cowboys. Titans could present some issues to them. Honestly, and it might be like we've been talking trash about the Titans all week. I think Dameon Pierce last night should give you at least a little bit of pause about the Philadelphia run defense. Pierce is a really nice player, really nice young player. He ain't Derrick Henry. Eagles are going to have to face Derrick Henry coming up in a couple of weeks. I do think there is some reason to be concerned there. Colts not really worried about. I hate to say it. Packers on a short week. That's on Sunday Night Football. Not all that worried about that one either. Handful of division games, though, those are going to be tough. Those teams know what Nick Sirianni is running better than anybody else does. So I will say no. They've got too many games with familiar teams, I think. But 16-1, 15-2 are both easily in play.
I think it's not a very imposing schedule. And that's what gives me the confidence to say that they can run the table. They can be the first unbeaten regular season team since the 07 Pats.
Which is pretty crazy because that year, New England was the best team in the NFL. By far. I mean, that's still one of the greatest teams of all time. They just didn't complete the run. You could go undefeated this year and be the third best team in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Very really. I mean, I think they are. I think it's Buffalo and Kansas City. I'll give Buffalo like a third of a level above the Chiefs right now, barely at all. And then I think the Eagles are in that discussion. They're just behind those two.
Sure.
With that, we're going to take another timeout. We'll come back with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com here on 580 Sports Talk. We will go momentarily to Kansas City for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider here on 580 Sports Talk. As always, it is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. We've got Matt now on the line. You can go find all of Matt's great coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter as well at Matt Derrick. What's going on, Matt? How was your bye week?
Not too bad. And today you caught me in between. Usually I'm either at the facility still or at home already. And today I'm in between. So I apologize if you get the sound of the rain pounding in Kansas City in the background.
No worries at all. Yeah, it is gross out there today, and I am frankly not really excited to be out in the rain coming up tonight. How were things at the facility today? Anything interesting you hear as the Chiefs gear up for Sunday night?
Yeah, pretty healthy team. I mean, other than Jody Fortson's going to be out, everybody else is ready to go. And that looks like it's going to include Kadarius Toney. Everything that we've seen and heard the last couple of days certainly seems like he is going to be active Sunday night, barring a last-minute change of heart. There's a few things built into the offense for him play-wise. Dave Tobe obviously is considering him as a punt returner, and it wouldn't surprise me if we saw him in that role. So you might be able to get your very first look at Kadarius Toney on Sunday night.
And to that point, how much of Toney do you think we're going to end up seeing? Do you think it very well could just be a spot role here or there, maybe a specific package offensively, maybe punt return, maybe he does get a chance to do that throughout the game. But offensively, do you think there will be a full workload for him, or is it still going to be somewhat shortened up just because he is still so new?
Yeah, it's got to be somewhat shortened up. And I think even with Andy Reid, saying today that there's a few things in for him, it would certainly seem to suggest that it's just a couple of packages. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it is just even a handful of plays and specific, routes in motion. Might be just wanting to use him in a role where maybe he does do some of the jet sweeps and the pop passes or even the fakes off of those. They just want to use him as a decoy. I could certainly see him in that spot. Remember, even with the Giants, the vast majority of his touches either come, behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, or just beyond it. So anything that he gets involved with, you got to feel it's going to be in these efforts to just get him the ball in space and let him use his more physical abilities in that spot to move the football and not be downhill deep stuff that depends more on timing and connections with the quarterback.
Not just about Toney in particular, but Matt, about this entire offense for the Chiefs. We were giving our keys to the game to lead off the show just about half an hour ago. And I said that one of the things I think the Chiefs need to do, not just in this game, but throughout the rest of the season, is continue to spread the wealth. And not that Patrick Mahomes is known to lock in on certain receivers, but the ability to get the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster in places where he can be the most effective. Travis Kelce can obviously do everything. MVS, great deep threat guy. You've got so many different things you can do with McCole Hardman kind of as that gadget weapon kind of player. Sky Moore, you can get the ball to him in different ways. It just feels to me like this Chiefs offense, to be the best it can possibly be, and it's been pretty darn good, you have to get these guys the balls in a bunch of different ways because they bring a bunch of different unique skills to the table. Do you feel similarly that you need to be able to spread the wealth a little bit if you're this Chiefs offense to hit your peak for what you can be this season?
Yeah, hey, I think that everybody Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes over the last, 6 seasons really to know what's coming. I mean, they get it. I mean, they know what they're going to be doing. They know what's coming. A whole lot of surprises. I mean, Andy Reid can pull out a few wrinkles here and there, but the best thing that Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense, I think, offers this year that they didn't have, particularly, I would say, at points last year. And hey, that stretch against when they played the Titans last year was a great example of that. Just weren't surprising anybody. It's all to me about unpredictability. I mean, that's what you really need to be as an offense. And now with Juju Smith-Schuster developing in, and I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is right there as far as just on the verge of breaking out. He obviously had a great game against the 49ers. If you can be multidimensional, and it's not just hey, last year the ball's going to Hill or Kelce and that's it. If you've got 4, 5, 6 viable options that the football can go to at any particular moment, teams aren't prepared for that. And that unpredictability, I mean, when Andy Reid's at his best and he's got the sleight of hand going and you as a defense just don't know where the ball is going, that's when, to me, this offense is unstoppable.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider and joins us every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can check Matt out on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, it is the Tennessee Titans on deck for the Chiefs on Sunday night, and you alluded to the loss the Chiefs had against the Titans last year. It's kind of stuck in the craw of these Chiefs players and coaches after they were humbled by the Titans 27-3 last year, a game in which nothing went right. Patrick Mahomes was injured in that game. It was just a rough day at the office, but the Titans, over the course of Andy Reid's tenure, have kind of had Kansas City's number a little bit. What is it about the Titans that makes them hard to play against for the Chiefs, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I you know about it, but I hadn't even thought about it until I looked earlier and saw that, Travis Kelce's never beaten the Titans in the regular season. He's 0-4. The Chiefs are 1-5 with Kelce overall. I mean, at least they won the one that they needed in the playoffs. But you're right. I mean, this Titans team, and they've done it a couple of different ways. I mean, it's been a couple of different head coaches. But I don't think there's any doubt. You look at this Mike Vrabel team, and he gets it. I mean, he knows and understands what you have to do to slow down the Chiefs. And that's stopped Travis Kelce. I mean, they have really done a number bottling him up. I think when I looked at it, Kelce's, I think, averaging in the high 50s as far as yards per game. It's nice, but that's not Travis Kelce numbers. I mean, that's not what he is. They do a really good job of bottling him up. And usually it's because they've got the personnel to do it. But, Mike Vrabel gets it. I mean, he knows that the offense for Andy Reid goes to the tight end, and in particular, Travis Kelce. You limit him, and it limits a lot of other options. And so that's why, I think that this Chiefs team is built more, to go up against the Titans and to take them on and head-to-head, because I think they have more options than that. I think they can get more things done. And certainly with the injury situation that the Titans have right now, I mean, Armani Hooker might be the one key piece that I think they may miss the most, because, he is a safety that can be a real matchup problem in the middle of the field with a guy like Kelce, and just certainly taking away the deep ball. That, to me, I mean, I think Kelce can still have a good game against this team, because I think they've got enough injury problems. But if not, I think there's other matchups that should favor the Chiefs on offense.
Derrick Henry didn't have a monster game against the Chiefs last year. He averages 110 yards a game in his career against the Chiefs, but he only had 86 yards on 29 carries in that win last year. It was really about what Ryan Tannehill was able to do and what the Chiefs just couldn't do on offense that led to that 27-3 final score last year. It wasn't Derrick Henry dominance by any stretch. What do you think the Chiefs can do to win that matchup and make sure that this doesn't turn into, like the Titans had last week, the kind of game where they can just play keep away and punish you on the ground? They had over 300 yards rushing against the Texans last week. What can the Chiefs do? How can they match up to make sure that doesn't happen to them?
Yeah, you go back to that game last year and you really remember, I mean, Derrick Henry almost had nothing to do with the win. I mean, the best thing that he had going for them is that in the second half, they just handed the ball to Derrick Henry and let him get 3 yards in a cloud of dust and just ran out the clock. Otherwise, it was Tannehill and it was A.J. Brown that was doing all the damage. The problem for Tannehill, of course, obviously, if he plays, which he may not. I mean, if he's out again and it's going to be Malik Willis, then truly the Titans are one-dimensional. I mean, they're going to run the football and that is it. And that's going to be just big man football right there. I mean, that's all it's going to be. And the question is, to me, are the Chiefs ready for that? I'd asked Steve Spagnuolo earlier this week if maybe this is the game that we might actually see Danny Shelton, who was brought in for, I think, games exactly like this, to be the big guy in the middle that can clock things up. And I mean, if we don't see Danny Shelton off the practice squad this week, I don't know when we would. That's what the Chiefs have to do. I mean, they have to bottle things up. They've got to make sure that there aren't any holes up front, that they're playing fundamentally sound. Remember, too, last year, this was a big coming out game for Nick Bolton, and you really need him. You need that linebacker group to be able to make their tackles, be sure-handed. Don't let anything. Derrick Henry's going to get his yards. What you can't do with Derrick Henry is let him turn those 3- and 4-yard gains into 21 because you're not tackling at the first level.
We're talking to Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. It's our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider here on the program. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And, of course, go check out all the great work covering the Kansas City Chiefs that Matt does over at ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, what worries you more, the stability and just the knownness of having Ryan Tannehill at quarterback for Tennessee, or the potential unpredictability if the Chiefs have to face Malik Willis, the rookie out of Liberty? Which would be a bigger concern to you if you were the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I know it is kind of a little bit of a pick your poison, but I think I would take having Willis out there because that just makes the Titans so one-dimensional. Yeah, I mean, you've seen how that could be a very powerful dimension. I mean, if they're going to run the football, it gives them just another athlete who can do that because Willis can be pretty elusive as well. And they've got more than just Derrick Henry. So there's things that they can do. But Tannehill, he's a wily veteran. I mean, we've seen what he has done to the Chiefs in the past. He always seems to save his best for this team. He's tricky, so I give him a lot of respect for that. And you know, his record against the Chiefs is so strong that that's just the guy that I would not want to see out there. I mean, he's one of those guys that, hey, he may be the epitome definition of a game manager. He's not the guy. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to put a team on his back, but when he's on, he's also not going to lose you any football game. He's not going to make any mistakes. And if you get a chance to force somebody to make mistakes, I'm more likely that the guy like Willis is going to do it than Tannehill.
In terms of generating pressure, do you feel like the Chiefs are really going to miss not having Frank Clark in this game? Given the matchup against the Titans offensive line, does this feel like a game in which they could miss Frank Clark, or should they have enough to still be able to generate pressure regardless of who's back there at quarterback for Tennessee?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I almost think that the one thing that they might miss with Frank Clark more than anything is just that he is an above average run defender. I mean, I think we've seen this year, I felt like he's probably played the run better this year than he has the last couple of seasons. And maybe the diet changes and the health changes and just being a little bit healthier has helped him out there. But he's been pretty effective. He's had some stops for losses on the ground. And that's where I think that they might miss him the most, because, you know, you've got to, against this Titans offense, to me, it's not as much about pressuring the quarterback as it is that you've just got to be assignment sound. You can't get out of your lanes. You can't be, and especially with some of the play action that they'll do, you can't go into every play expecting it's going to be a run or a pass. I mean, you've got to be pretty disciplined, prepared for both. And as a result, I mean, the Chiefs are going to be fairly young up front. I mean, we're probably going to get a lot of George Karlaftis. Mike Dana is back and healthy. I think they'll see him. Carlos Dunlap is probably the one guy who will benefit the most from Frank Clark, and having another veteran out there will probably help. But if I'm the Titans, I'm probably looking at those edges and seeing if there's a way that I can attack there, because that's probably where the weakness of the Chiefs defense really is.
I know he's not playing this week, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on Frank Clark, but I am curious, Matt, because I'm not sure if I've ever asked you this before. Do you know why Frank Clark gets sick so often? Because, I mean, we all remember 2019, the start of the year, he had whatever was going on that was making his stomach upset all the time. It feels like he misses days of practice every week, if not every other week, just because he's ill. And I don't want to make fun of it, because if he's really sick or he's got something going on, obviously that's unfortunate, but I don't think I've ever seen someone, Matt, miss as much practice time due to illness as Frank Clark.
You know, and he has talked with us a little bit in the past about it. And, you know, a lot of it stems from when he had the really severe appendicitis back in Seattle a few years ago that I believe burst on him. He had to have emergency surgery on that. And there were some other complications with it, too. And as a result, yeah, he seems he gets these bouts where it's difficult for him to keep food and fluids down. He gets very sick. There's been a couple of times even with the Chiefs where he's been hospitalized, you know, putting him on an IV just to get him hydrated and get him kind of back stabilized and normal again. So it is something that bothers him. He's been trying to control it with medication and diet. He thought that, you know, maybe he had it a little bit under control this off season when he changed his diet and changed some of his personal habits. But it's kind of popped up again. So it's been as frustrating, I know, for him as it has been for everybody else. And that does seem to be pretty unpredictable, but it has been something that has really, truly affected him. I mean, I can attest from the people I've talked to, it's not, you know, it's not like me when I would, you know, get sick before a test, you know, cough, and maybe to miss out on it. Frank gets sick, he gets sick, man.
All right, Matt, let's get a prediction from you for Chiefs versus Titans coming up on Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points as of right now. That is a massive spread against a team that's won 5 games in a row. Do you like the Chiefs to win, and do you like them to win by that much?
My prediction is going to say yes, that I do. But my goodness, this is the last game in the NFL I would bet this week because that spread just scares me. You just don't see that very often, and it's a hard spread to cover. So I don't have a lot of faith, even though I think the Chiefs are going to win this game and win it comfortably. They are very motivated. I mean, there is no doubt. If these players, I know the ones who were here last year remember that Titans game, but this coaching staff has not let them forget it either. I mean, there's been reminders every single day about what the Titans did to them last year. They're ready and they're motivated for this. So I think they want to go out there and put a whipping on this team pretty good. We'll see how it comes out. I mean, I think the Titans, they do it with smoke and mirrors. I mean, I don't know how they're 5-2 exactly with the way they've gotten here. And we know from the Buffalo game that, hey, you can take advantage of them, especially deep. So I think the Chiefs win this pretty comfortably. I'm not comfortable enough to say it's going to be 41-7 like that Buffalo game. But I'm going with Kansas City 31-17.
Go follow Matt Derrick on Twitter for all the best instant reaction to the Chiefs. That's at Matt Derrick. You go check out all of his fantastic coverage at ChiefsDigest.com as Matt Derrick joins us every Friday for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider here on 580 Sports Talk. As always, Matt, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, guys. Take care, and everybody stay safe and dry out there.
That is Matt Derrick. Nobody does it better covering the Kansas City Chiefs for ChiefsDigest.com. We're making our Big 12 picks to lead off the 4 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. final 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero coming at you for the next 2 hours. As we get you ready for a little high school football coming up tonight, regional round of the state football playoffs, and we've got a 1A game on tap for you. As the 7-2 St. Mary's Bears host the 8-1 Troy Trojans at St. Mary's Field in, you guessed it, St. Mary's, Kansas. Kickoff is set for 7 o'clock, pregame at 6:30 following 580 Sports Talk overtime. So join myself, Dan, and Greg Akagi for the call tonight here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. A combined 15-3 record for these two programs as they go head-to-head tonight. We are so excited for this regional round matchup. Both teams trying to win a second playoff game in a year for the first time in a long time. Last time St. Mary's did it was 2009. The last time that Troy did it was 2016. You're looking forward to what should be a very fun matchup between two of the best teams in Class 1A coming up tonight. Coming up this hour on 580 Sports Talk, we will get to our Big 12 picks for the week and our Sports on 580 picks competition selections. We'll also talk about KU versus Oklahoma State, K-State versus Texas, the rest of the Big 12 slate. We've got our What is Wrong with You? The Skeleton Sex House won yesterday. It is our new weekly winner. It's quite a story, and I've thought about it a lot since we unveiled it yesterday. It has been living rent-free in my head. We're also going to hear from Ty Zentner, the punter, kicker, and kickoff specialist for K-State, the reigning Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week, about what this week has been like for him, his responsibilities when he knew he was going to be taking over the kicking role last week from Chris Tennant. All that is coming up over the course of the next hour here on 580 Sports Talk. You are also welcome to be a part of the show on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429, and by chiming in the comments on our live stream on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is where you can find us on YouTube and where you can find us streaming today. Dan and I are both wearing gray, if you want another outfit update for the two of us. Both gray. Dan going with the quarter zip today. I've got the hoodie on.
It's a light quarter zip to go underneath the heavier shell rain jacket that I will for sure have to wear tonight down on the sideline at St. Mary's.
That's smart. That was smart dressing. I only brought one layer for tonight, so I'm hoping it doesn't end up getting too cold.
This layer is almost not sufficient for the control room. It's a little chilly in here today.
It is unbelievable. We talked about this the other day. Dan and I are separated by glass, and the control board's in front of Dan. I've got the regular studio space in front of me. It is sweltering hot in here every single day. You go one door over into the control room, it is freezing cold every single day. I'm not sure who we need to talk to about this. It's certainly not us. That is above my pay grade. All right, let's get to our Big 12 picks for the weekend, or at least our picks competition selections for this weekend. You can play along with us, see all of our picks, what we are betting on this week's slate over at our website, 580WIBW.com. It is the top post on the website right now. So go to 580WIBW.com. It's our new URL right on the front page from left to right. Fulton, Jake, myself, Dan, all of us right there. And you will be able to see all of the picks that we are making that we will give you right now. Dan, you are now in first place in the competition.
That's right, I am. Who do you think you are? I am.
We had someone in the YouTube comments earlier today say, I heard that Fulton's winning the contest y'all got going on. If I remember correctly, his ability to pick winners was matched only by his fishing ability, which is quite a roast of Fulton.
Wow.
The man who went on a 2-week fishing trip and didn't catch a single fish.
No fish.
Truly remarkable. But yes, it is true. Dan has surpassed Fulton. So Dan for the year is 14-10. That's profitable. If you were to make 24 bets and win 14, that's profitable.
I'm like that. What can I say?
Fulton is one behind at 13-11. Jake and I are both 11-13. So the gap is still very, very small. 3 points. That's your average margin of error in a political poll. So we are very tight at this point. So since you are in first place, Dan, I will let you announce your picks first.
Cool. I'm going with my college picks first. I have a spread pick and I have an over-under pick. I am going under in Air Force Army at 40.5. The total. I am going under. 23 of the last 26 games pitting one service academy against another have hit the under. So I'm sticking with the under for the service academy contest here. Air Force Army under 40.5. I think Tennessee's going to cover the 8.5 against Georgia. They can win. I'm a big believer. Don't bet the dog unless you think they can win. I think Tennessee can win. I think their offense is that good. But I also think that Georgia's defense is really good.
Yep.
And so I think a game Georgia wins is close. Much closer than 8.5 points. So I'm taking Tennessee. I'm taking the number 1 team in the college football playoff poll and 8.5 points. And I may be tempting fate a bit with this one, but I'm going to go ahead and start believing with my heart and my wallet in Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. They are 1.5 point underdogs against an Arizona team that they waxed just 3 weeks ago in Seattle. I think they can beat them again on such a short turnaround. I know Arizona has DeAnthony Hopkins now, but or DeAndre Hopkins, excuse me. But I do think
not to be confused with the famous actor Anthony Hopkins.
No, or DeAnthony Thomas, who once seen a deer. I am going Seattle plus 1.5. I think they win that game outright. So those are my picks. I like Air Force Army under 40.5, Tennessee plus 8.5 between the hedges, and Seattle plus 1.5 in Glendale.
I will go with my college picks first as well. I'm also on Tennessee plus 8.5 against Georgia. I like this Tennessee team a lot. I love Hendon Hooker. He is special. Josh Heupel has got that team rolling. I'm going to take Tennessee plus 8.5 against Georgia. I do think they have a legit chance to win or at least keep it within a touchdown, even though it will be between the hedges. Tough place to play, obviously. I'm going with KU minus 1.5. We'll get to this line in just a minute, so I won't dive too deep into that, but I'm going to take Kansas to cover 1.5 against Oklahoma State at home at the booth. My NFL pick, my over pick for the week. Give me Panthers-Bengals over. PJ Walker is just ripping it right now at quarterback for the Panthers. Doesn't always know where the ball is going, but he is slinging it right now. Panthers offense has come alive a little bit. Bengals, I think, are going to have a bounce back. Maybe that's dumb to bet on Zach Taylor in that way. I'm going to trust the quarterback, Joe Burrow. So I will take the over in Panthers-Bengals.
I actually really like the under on that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
that's one of my best bets of the weekend. In fact, I'm taking the under.
Well,
on that game,
we'll have to come to fisticuffs during the next commercial break. I would also like to point out we just got a text from our coworker and one of the hosts of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton, the one and only Fulton Caster, who's listening to the show right now, who says that is absolutely targeting on that commenter 15-yard penalty. Was not happy about the fishing comment.
I bet not. It was kind of uncalled for.
Some things are harsh but true. And Fulton had a tough time when he went fishing over the summer. That's just facts. No insults to Fulton whatsoever, just bringing up the facts. All right, our Big 12 picks of the week. Let's start with that KU game. KU at home, 2:30 kickoff at the booth against Oklahoma State. KU at some books, not all of them, most books opened around 3. There were some books that opened by as many as 6 points favoring Oklahoma State. This line in the last, what would that be, about 16 hours has swung 1.5. It continues to favor KU more and more. Jayhawks are favored by 1.5. This to me says more, and again, this is not a report. This is just based on what Michael Swain told us on Tuesday. This is based on just what I have seen, perusing Twitter and message boards and whatnot, and just a gut feeling. I think it's Gunnar Gundy who's going to get the start for Oklahoma State. Because remember, Spencer Sanders did not leave the K-State game because they were just trying to rest him. He left that game when he did because he re-injured his shoulder. I think it's going to be Gunnar Gundy. I think this is more about him than it is about the KU quarterback situation. If Jalen Daniels goes in this game for KU, I think KU for certain is going to win, or I'm almost certain KU is going to come out on top. Even if it is Jason Bean, I like KU's defense against an inexperienced, green backup quarterback, young backup quarterback, more than I do even against a banged-up Spencer Sanders. And I think that's fair given how poorly KU's defense has played recently. I think the KU offense will be fine. You got the off week to kind of retool, reorganize the playbook a little bit. Lance Leipold said earlier this week he was very happy with what they were able to work on and develop over the course of the bye week. So I'm going to take KU with that 1.5 spread. Spencer Sanders ends up playing. I will be more concerned about that because it obviously means that shoulder is at least in decent shape. But if it ends up being Gunnar Gundy for sure, I like KU to win this game.
Yeah.
Even without Jalen Daniels.
Oklahoma State's loss at Kansas State last Saturday is the kind of loss that can throw a program into some, like, not disarray. That's overstating it, but it can create a crisis of confidence.
Mhm.
Let's say that. And not only do you have that, you have a team that is still really beat up and now might be down to their backup quarterback who looked plainly not ready for prime time,
Yep.
even against the third string Kansas State defense at the end of last week's game. So, yeah, that has me pretty worried for Oklahoma State. The number doing what it's done, the spread throughout this week has been wild. It's jumped the fence in the last just 24, 36 hours, gone from Oklahoma State favored to Kansas being favored. If you look at the underlying number, however, it's really fascinating. Oklahoma State to cover a 1.5 is minus 122. So you have to bet 122 to win 100. That's $22 worth of juice there for the for Vegas. KU minus 1.5 is plus 100 at FanDuel. They are hunting for Kansas money, is what that tells me. And a lot of the money, at least at FanDuel, has come in on Oklahoma State, and they are hunting perhaps for a little bit of Kansas money to balance that out and balance their risk. But I'm with you. Whether it's Daniels or Bean, I think Kansas has established that they can move the ball. We don't know what it's going to look like for 60 minutes for Oklahoma State with Gunnar Gundy, but early returns, not all that promising. And I am leaning towards the fresher team coming out of their bye being able to win this game at home and secure bowl eligibility.
Let's go to the K-State game. Kansas State at home. For as surprising as it is based on what we know and what we expect out of the game in Lawrence, I think it's just as surprising, maybe even more so, that Kansas State is a home underdog against Texas. Texas has plenty of talent. They've got a young quarterback who, when he's on, looks as good as anybody, but when he's off, looks like a young quarterback who hasn't played a whole lot of college football. They've got some receiver talent. Defensively, not great. And depending on what you think of Steve Sarkisian, kind of mid. Kansas State is coming off of one of its biggest wins in program history, a 48-0 beatdown of a top 10 team. You've got all the momentum if you're Kansas State. Now, you do have the quarterback question, but I think most people, and maybe the sharps in Vegas and the odds makers themselves, say, oh, no, that number actually makes a lot of sense. But I think for the common person, the common fan, and the common college football analyst, you look at this and say, this smells gross. Something is fishy here, because Kansas State, based on their recent sample size, even with a backup quarterback, should almost certainly be a several points favorite, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because, again, like, we know it looks good for K-State no matter who they have at quarterback. Whether they roll Adrian Martinez or Will Howard out, you have some confidence that the offense is going to put some points up. The computers love Texas. Like, the numbers, the data really like this Texas team. The like SP Plus, the FEI at Football Outsiders, they all put Texas in like elite company, have them as a top 10 team in the country, even with some of the losses that they've had. And I guess I get it. Like, they've blown some big leads, but you have to be good to get big leads in the first place. And they've got talent. Nobody denies that. Bijan Robinson is awesome. Xavier Worthy is really good. They've got a front seven that can do some damage. And they've won 5 in a row against Kansas State. That bears noting as well, that they've had the rub of the green in this conference rivalry the last half decade. But man, if K-State's anything like they showed up against Oklahoma State, they're going to win this game. Never mind cover 2.5 points. And if there's one thing about Chris Kleiman in his tenure, he has always had K-State up for the big occasion. He has always had his team ready to play the big, big games.
Yep.
That's why they've got the record against Oklahoma that they do. He gets that team ready to play. This is a huge opportunity for Kansas State. At home, prime time, and if you win this, I mean, you're already in a spot where you control your own destiny to reach the Big 12 championship game. It's not clear sailing, but it's green grass and high tides ahead for Kansas State if they beat Texas on Saturday. I think the Cats will be ready to play regardless of who it is under center, and I think they are going to win this game. I just can't see Quinn Ewers going on the road after he went to Stillwater and put up a 19 for 49 stink bomb of a game. I can't see Ewers going on the road and engineering a victory for Texas.
You mentioned the computers loving Texas. SP Plus from ESPN, Bill Connolly's numbers. They've got Texas number 6 in the country.
Right.
K-State not far behind at 14th. Stats Perform, formerly Stats Inc. They've got Texas 7th in the country. Can you guess where they have K-State?
12th?
6th.
They've
got K-State as 0.7 of a point better than Texas right now. This is going to, I think, be a very good game. I think K-State's defense is going to be able to do enough. I don't know what Texas's defense is going to do against K-State. I really don't. I mean, whether it's Howard or Martinez, I think the Texas defense is going to struggle. I think K-State's defense has enough juice to slow down Texas just enough. They only probably need a handful of stops in this game. So I'm going to take K-State. I'm going to take them to cover. I'm going to take them outright as well. I know that's what Vegas wants. Vegas wants you to say, oh, in Manhattan, Kansas State? Oh, yeah, I'll take the bait. I will take that bait with both hands, and I'll say K-State ends up with the win. Other games around the Big 12. Let's whip through these. Texas Tech at TCU. The Frogs favored by 8.5. Tech is coming off a multi-score loss to Baylor. TCU is still undefeated. It's in Fort Worth, but it's not like Fort Worth is Death Valley. I don't think that's a crazy home field advantage for TCU. Not that far of a trip, all things considered, even though Lubbock is quite isolated. I kind of like Texas Tech with a bounce back here.
Nah, not me. I think TCU is at least 2 touchdowns better than Texas Tech.
Okay.
Tech's going through a bit of a quarterback crisis. They played all 3 guys on Saturday.
That's true.
All of them threw interceptions. That seems like a problem for that Texas Tech offense, and TCU doesn't have any problems on offense. I think they're going to score. They're going to score in bunches. Texas Tech can't keep up.
Also from the Big 12 this week, I want to know what you think about this line. Oklahoma at home is favored by 3.5 over Baylor. What good logic is there to favor Oklahoma over Baylor outside of it's in Norman?
And they're coming off a win.
Yeah.
They did go to Ames and beat Iowa State as an underdog, mind you.
Baylor also beat Texas Tech by multiple scores.
Beat them like they stole something. They're averaging 40 a game over their last 3, and Oklahoma still can't stop a nosebleed. Look, I'm taking Baylor plus 3.5. This is one of my best bets of the weekend. Spoiler alert for the 5 o'clock hour. I love Baylor in this spot. I just think they're the more disciplined team. They're the more well-rounded team. They have the offense that can put stress on Oklahoma's defense. Iowa State doesn't. Flat out, they don't. And even with their crummy offense, they still put a drive together late in that game where they were picking up 3rd down and long, 4th down and long against the Oklahoma defense. Baylor is good enough to stress test that Oklahoma defense and score a bunch of points, and they're good enough on defense to keep Oklahoma in check. Baylor's going to cover the 3.5, and they're going to win that game outright.
Stats Perform has Baylor right now as 8.7 points better than Oklahoma. I like Baylor too. This is another one that feels kind of like bait to take Baylor, but I think Baylor's a better team, and I don't really think it's all that close at this point.
Keep in mind, Vegas manipulates these lines. Yes, most people don't watch the league like we do.
That is also 100% true.
We should have something like an edge, you would think.
You would think.
You would think.
Last one. Bottom of the conference battle. West Virginia at Iowa State. The Clones are getting 6.5. Give me West Virginia. I do not trust Iowa State. I don't think I might bet Iowa State the rest of the year.
Do we know West Virginia's running back situation? Because they were down to their backup, C.J. Donaldson, last week, and then he got hurt, and he's out for the year.
That is a good question. I do not believe we have clarity at the moment. At least not that I have been made aware of.
What's the guy's name? Tony Mathis. That's who we're looking for. I don't know if Tony Mathis is going to play or not. Looks like last we heard 3 days ago has not been determined. If he plays, they can beat Iowa State because Iowa State just can't score.
No.
I know it's in Ames, and Iowa State needs a win, but it just kind of feels like this is one of those seasons that's circling the drain for Iowa State. West Virginia, they've responded in spots as big underdogs before this year. I think they'll cover the 6.5. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm taking West Virginia to at least keep this one close. I know it's in Ames, but still. All right, real quick. Best game outside the Big 12. Most excited you are for another game is what?
Well, I mean, it's obviously Tennessee, Georgia, isn't it? This is the best game of this week. It's going to be one of the best games of the college football season. Super excited to see how the irresistible force that is Hendon Hooker handles the immovable object that is the Georgia defense. And frankly, how the Georgia offense stacks up against a shaky Tennessee secondary. This is going to be a fascinating game. I can't wait to watch it.
There are only 4 ranked versus ranked games among teams in the CFP rankings. Tennessee versus Georgia, K-State versus Texas, Alabama at LSU, and then you've got Wake Forest, North Carolina State. That game could get real ugly. I mean, Alabama, LSU has some intrigue to it, but I'm with you. I mean, the whole nation is going to be watching Tennessee, Georgia, so they're going to miss out on KU taking on Oklahoma State at the same time, clearly. We've got to take a break. What is Wrong With You is next here on 580 Sports Talk. It's time to find our weekly champion for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk, live on 580 WWW AM and on YouTube at Sports on 580. Our current weekly winner is the Skeleton Sex House, folks in Ohio who put up a vulgar display of skeletons in their front yard for Halloween right across the street from a school. They're the skeletons having sex house. Like that's what they are forever. Oh, which red brick house are you talking about? Oh, the ones with the skeletons having sex. Oh, yeah, I know exactly where that is. That's
Around
what they
the
will
corner,
always
yeah.
be.
So you get to the middle school and you take a left, and we're 3 houses down with the skeletons in flagrante delicto.
Oh, wow. Suddenly I can't make it tomorrow night. So sorry. We've got 2 news stories going head-to-head today. First one for me. We are heading to Florida, Clearwater, Florida, to be specific, where after a sheriff's deputy found an uncapped syringe and a crystal substance among a man's belongings, that same man demanded that the cop call the FBI and the local police. Well, why is that? Because he said, folks, I'm allowed to carry methamphetamine. 50-year-old Robert Lawson was questioned back on the 26th of October after he was spotted loitering near a wooded area in Clearwater. During a, quote, consensual encounter, Lawson reportedly gave police permission to search him and his bags. According to the arrest report, the search yielded a small baggie containing a crystal substance which, you guessed it, tested positive for meth, as well as a used syringe with a brown liquid residue. After being read his Miranda rights, Lawson demanded that Deputy Daniel Maddox call the FBI and St. Petersburg Police Department because he is allowed to carry methamphetamine. He was arrested on felony drug possession charges and a misdemeanor of drug paraphernalia possession. He's being held in the county jail on a $2,150 bond. His rap sheet also includes convictions for trespassing, battery, and other arrests for possession of drug paraphernalia.
So this is maybe a cousin of the meth is legal guy?
Exactly what I was thinking.
When they ran up on the guy in the alley and he was smoking meth, he says, nah, chill, officer. Meth is legal now. No, this guy isn't arguing that meth is legal, just that he can have it.
Yeah, no, I'm allowed to have that.
I don't know what the rules are for everyone else, but for Robert Lawson, I can have meth as a treat. I can have a little meth as a treat.
I don't think you get that personal clearance, Robert. What's your story for today?
So we are going to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have a story that will make the barbecue purists out there shake with rage.
I had this one saved as well.
We meet Annie Cook, who went to Clyde Cooper's Barbecue in Raleigh and was a little bit confused about the condition of the meat she was served. She ordered a plate of barbecue, and it came out a little bit pink. She didn't like that much, and she complained. And that is the point at which the folks at Clyde Cooper's patiently tried to explain to the woman that sometimes that's how barbecue pork looks. When you put it in a smoker, sometimes the smoke gives it a little bit of a pink tinge. Source, I've eaten barbecue before. A lot. I consider myself something of a barbecue fan, if not a connoisseur. I won't go that far. Though, I did once go through the KCBS barbecue judging training. They were having a barbecue festival in Warland, Wyoming, which is where I had my first job in radio. And they needed judges. And so they held like a training seminar for like how to judge barbecue at a barbecue contest. And I went and checked it out.
Hell yeah.
It was free dinner, first of all.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't turn down a free meal because you do get to taste it. But, you judge like what it looks like, how it's presented, all that stuff. So shout out to the KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society. But, yeah, sometimes the meat looks pink. Well, Annie Cook just could not get it through her head that that's how it was supposed to look. And she called the cops. She called the police. She called 911 after leaving the restaurant. Before that call, the woman at the barbecue establishment tried to explain several times why the meat was pink. Even other customers tried to chime in. Here's a quote from the woman's name is Debbie Holt. She's the owner of the barbecue restaurant. I kind of snickered a little bit and told her, honey, that's when the barbecue is smoked. It turns pink. And she was insistent it wasn't done. Holt said she offered to bring another meal, white meat chicken. She said Cook did not make a fuss, left, and dialed 911. I had ordered some food from there, and the barbecue is pink, the woman told the police. I asked for them to either cook it some more or exchange my order. They are saying that the meat is supposed to be pink. I asked for them to change my order, and they said that they are not giving me my money back or they are not going to trade out the food.
That, by the way, having worked in food service, yes, if something is wrong, you have some recourse. If you just don't like it, that is tough beans for you.
Yeah. So the police apparently all they told Holt was, quote, I got you. And tried to, again, explain to this woman, that's how the meat is supposed to look. The woman then left a 1-star review on Google with a photo of her plate. She also complained the cheese in her mac and cheese was not melted, but Clyde Cooper's Barbecue explained that's a special smoked cheddar that adds flavor. Again, that's how it's supposed to be cooked. Now, I understand. Sometimes you eat with your eyes. If you see something, it's not pleasurable to you, doesn't look right to you, you may be less inclined to want to eat it.
Yep.
But you don't call the damn police about some barbecue.
This is ridiculous. This wins today. I've got this as my winner for today.
WRAL out of Raleigh actually found Annie Cook and spoke to her today. And she says she's had barbecue at other restaurants and it was never pink.
Okay, well, tough for you. Go somewhere else then. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, go where they don't smoke their meat. Yeah, just, I don't know.
You can't call the police over your food at the restaurant, my friend. You just can't do that. That wins today for sure. Does that beat the skeleton sex house?
Absolutely not.
They just refuse. Like, excuse me, there are children here. There are churches all over as well.
Yeah, and?
Don't care. Do not care.
They're middle schoolers. They think this stuff is funny.
That is our winner for the week. The Skeleton Sex House advances to our end of the month November Tournament of Champions. That is our first weekly winner for the month of November. Coming up on the other side of this timeout, we will talk to Ty Zentner, the special teams superstar for Kansas State football. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk.
FM 104.9.
We're back on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you this afternoon as we welcome in the reigning Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. What a couple of weeks here for the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds, winning a playoff game, taking on number one Mill Valley coming up this Friday, and now a former Thunderbird is your Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. Ty Zentner joining us here on the show today. And Ty, what did you think? What were your immediate feelings when you found out you were named the Big 12 Special Teamer of the Week?
It was awesome. It was a great feeling. It just kind of shows how much of the work that we put in on special teams kind of pays off on Saturdays. So it was great. It could have went to a bunch of guys on our team. I know Phil had a big game, and there's a couple guys that had a couple tackles on special teams. So it really could have went to anybody, but I was honored to receive the award and excited to play again this Saturday.
You've been having a great season in general, kicking off, punting the ball, but taking on a bigger responsibility this week too, getting some of the place kicking duties, some of the field goal, extra point duties as well. When did you know that might be a possibility when you'd have to take on that bigger role this past weekend against Oklahoma State?
We kind of discussed it on Monday. As Coach said last week, we spent more time on field goal this week. we kicked all 4 days in practice, and just kind of got it hashed out. Thursday, I had a really good practice, and I think that's when they kind of made their final decision. And yeah, it was awesome to be back out there kicking field goals again. I hadn't done it since the bowl game last year, so it was really fun. Kicked a lot during the game, so a little bit sore on Monday, but it was a great time.
I want to follow up on one thing you just mentioned there about kicking all 4 days of practice this past week. And I think that special teams is something that the general public really overlooks. Obviously, you guys at K-State do not. That's such a big part of the K-State brand and the K-State success for decades now. But I think a lot of people don't really understand what goes into being good at specialist positions. What does a normal week of practice look like as a kicker, as a punter, kickoff duty, field goals, whatever it might be? What does a week of practice generally look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And over the weeks, it's kind of changed now that I'm kicking field goals. But Monday typically would come in, just punt, get warmed up for practice, punt before the guys come out. And we would have a punt session during practice. So kind of just staying warm for that, and also field goal mixed in there somewhere. So always kind of did punt and field goal on Monday. Tuesday, we work on punt. Wednesday's always kind of been my day off. And then Thursday we hit all three kickoff, punt, and field goal. So we make sure to mix in special teams into every single practice, and I think that's kind of why it shows on Saturdays.
You mentioned being sore on Monday after how much you had to kick against Oklahoma State. What's the recovery like for a specialist, for someone who's kicking? Are you sitting in the cold tub all day? Is it a big massage day? What's the recovery like when you come in with sore legs?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I would say a lot of cold tub, a lot of hot tub, just kind of back and forth, doing some contrasting. Just doing a lot of groin exercises, kind of getting it stretched back out, feeling good. But that's just kind of life of the specialist. You got to take care of your leg and be prepared to play the whole season.
Ty Zentner is our guest. He is the kicker and punter and kickoff specialist for the Kansas State Wildcats, the reigning Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. You get the opportunity to kick on Saturday, but that means one of your teammates does not. Chris Tennant had handled that job up until last Saturday when you got the opportunity to kick the field goals and the extra points. Obviously, it's a competition, and you all want the responsibility, but only one of you can have the responsibility, whether it's punting or field goals or extra points or kickoffs. How do you balance that in the kicker's room? Because it is such a tight fraternity, you special teams guys. How do you balance that competitiveness with the support that you guys need to be able to do your job well and be fired up for each other when you come through for the team on Saturday?
Yeah. First, I'd like to say that, Chris is a great athlete, great person. And he's a really good kicker, and he spends a lot of time on his craft just like I do. And kind of what we do in practice sometimes looks a little bit different because he's more of a kicker and I'm more of a punter. But, we push each other all throughout the year, whether it's in the weight room, team runs, just out in the summer kicking on the field. So we're always constantly pushing each other. He's going to continue to push me on kickoffs and punts and field goals. So just supporting each other no matter what is something I would say. When we found out that I was kicking, he let me know that he had full confidence in me and that he was going to support me all the way through it. And that just shows how good of a teammate he is. And I'm super proud to call him my teammate and one of my best friends.
You mentioned it, but you got to kick a lot on Saturday. That's what happens when you score 48 points. How tuned in were you with what the offense was doing out there on the field? And what did you think of that offensive performance? Did you ever expect you'd be kicking that much against the ninth ranked team in the country?
Yeah. You don't really know what to expect because, like I said, I was doing all three. So it could have been a game where we were punting more, or it could have been a game where we were kicking more. And so, awesome that we were kicking more. Our offense was moving the ball, got us into great positions at all times. Special teams did a great job getting us into great field positions. So, Will just went out there, played loose, had a lot of fun, and, guys were making plays all around. The receivers, Deuce, everybody, offensive line played great. So it was a total team effort. It was awesome to see us play like that, and I know we can do that every single week.
What is it like on the sidelines during a game like that, where as it goes, you realize that, hey, we are in complete control of this football game. We are going to win this football game, and we are going to do it by a lot of points. We're going to turn some heads nationally with the way this game ends up. What was the vibe like on the sideline as that game went on and as the score got more and more lopsided in your favor against, again, a really good team?
Yeah, Oklahoma State is a really good team, and they'll continue to have a great season. I would say on the sideline, we just stayed locked in the whole time, full 60 minutes. We weren't thinking of the score. We went into halftime, we were saying 0-0 ball game, and it was 35-0 at that point. So that just kind of shows how locked in we were, how it's always just the next play. You got to stay locked in and just continue to battle until that final whistle blows.
Will Howard, the starting quarterback, getting carried off the field was a really cool moment that happened after that game. I don't know how aware you were of that as it was happening, but can you speak to just what it's been like to see Will step in as somebody who's been with the program and having to step in for the injured Adrian Martinez and the job that he's done in running that offense and helping lead that offense to that winning effort on Saturday?
Yeah, for sure. We're all just so proud of Will. He's battled in this whole time here. I remember when he came in for his visit, Skylar Thompson hosted him during the week, and Skylar brought him over to my house where I lived with Eric Hommel and Sammy Wheeler, and we kind of just hung out. And so it's cool to look back at that moment and kind of think about how far Will's came, and we're just so proud of him. He plays super hard. He's always locked in, and just couldn't be more proud of the guy.
We're talking to Ty Zentner, the kicker, punter, and kickoff specialist for the Kansas State Wildcats, coming off of a massive game against Oklahoma State this past week that led to Ty being named the Big 12 Special Teamer of the Week. And to that point, too, Ty, just in general with this team this year, what has the energy been like? Not necessarily in a compare and contrast to your previous seasons in Manhattan, but just what is kind of the overall aura, the overall energy around this program right now?
Yeah, I would say that our energy doesn't really change. We've been focused on 1 week seasons, and so each week's a new week. You gotta attack Monday just like you attack Saturday. So we just stay locked in at all times. Like I said, it's always the next play, whether it's the next meeting or your next treatment session, next practice, next period of practice. So we're just staying locked in at all times, kind of being where our feet are, and excited to play this week against Texas.
We were talking a little bit earlier about what the recovery is like after a busy week and also not exactly knowing what to prepare for game to game. So that actually brings me to this matchup coming up on Saturday. Obviously, another huge one for you guys at K-State. But going into this matchup with Texas, I mean, how do you prepare mentally for an opponent as a specialist? Offense, okay, we know what they're going to run. Defense, we know what they're going to run. What do you do as a kicker or as a punter to prepare for individual opponents? Or do you not really prepare for individual opponents and it's all just about your regular routine?
No, I would say that you definitely got to prepare for the opponent. No matter what your position is, you gotta see what they do on the plays that you'll be out on the field. So what I like to do is I like to watch their punt return, their kickoff return, their field goal block and field goals, just all the special team units. And I kind of watch the kicker on each of those plays and see if anything crosses their face that might affect me and what I'm doing. So that's kind of the way I look at it, whether it's a guy on kickoff return coming up to box kicker or not, where I can fit on the returners, what the returner is good with and not good with. So those are kind of things I look at and spend time working on throughout the week. So, yeah.
What are you the most excited about for this matchup coming up with Texas?
Just another opportunity. I think this team's ready to roll. We're excited to have another opportunity, another night game in the bill. So we're super excited to play this game and shock the nation again.
I'm glad you bring up the fact that it's a night game. It's a primetime game. I know depending on some of the stuff that happens with the TV networks, it might even be on the big Fox channel. So the whole world's going to be watching this one. As a player, do you prefer playing the primetime games, the middle of the day, or the early 11 o'clock kick? I know us media members, we have our own feelings about it. Fans who are tailgating, they certainly have their own feelings about it. Do you have a preference, and do the different time slots impact your day of game preparations at all?
No, not a whole lot. I would say with the early kicks, it's nice to wake up and kind of get rolling, and you don't have to do a lot of sitting around. And the night games are fun too. You get to spend the day in the hotel, getting stretched out, locking in meetings, and kind of going through those things, and then you roll out late at night. But for us, it doesn't really matter what time we play. We could play at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, and we'll be ready to roll.
I don't think I could handle a 3 o'clock on a Monday, but that's good to know. Good to know that you're always prepared and always ready to go. All right, I've got 2 more for the road for you here, Ty. Number 1, which is more fun for you in all of your experience and all the time you've been kicking and punting? What is more exciting, thrilling for you? A long field goal make or a coffin corner punt?
Um, I would say a coffin corner punt. It sets up the defense in a great position. You can like last year against Texas Tech, we got 2 points from a great play by Felix, and then it kind of just turns tie the whole game. So controlling the field positions is always something that it turns out big for us, and that's what's important. And I mean, making a long field goal is awesome too. And we'll be prepared to do whatever.
And the last thing I've got for you then, Ty, is I mentioned your high school alma mater a little bit ago. The Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds having another great year, playoff win this past week. Do you stay much in contact with your old coach, Jason Swift, or any of the other coaches at Shawnee Heights?
Yeah, I've talked to Coach Swift a lot recently. I know he's got the boys locked in and they're ready to roll. It's going to be a big game this week for them, and I see they've had a great season. So I wish I could come back and see more games, but we don't really get to do that much. So I look forward to hearing about how they do this week.
I do want to ask one other quick thing. For those who might not know, have you always been a K-State guy from the very beginning? Was that always your dream school? Was it just a matter of, hey, they offered me, I loved the program, I wanted to go? What was the draw for K-State, or was it always a lifelong draw there?
I would say that the draw to K-State really came during my senior year. I was teammates with Wyatt Hubert, and I was signed to Butler Community College when he was signed to K-State. So I always kind of just looked at that moment, and I was like, I'm going to go play with Wyatt at K-State and kind of make a name for myself.
Well, that's a pretty darn good guy to want to team up with. Wyatt Hubert, of course, who made it to the NFL this past year. Well, Ty Zentner is the reigning Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week after a massive game in K-State's massive win over Oklahoma State as the Cats get ready to take on Texas coming up on Saturday at the Bill. Ty, thank you so much for taking the time for us, man. We really do appreciate it, and best of luck to you and the rest of the Cats coming up on Saturday on Harley Day.
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That's Ty Zentner of Kansas State, formerly of Shawnee Heights. Our great thanks to him for joining 580 Sports Talk. We'll wrap up the 4 o'clock hour of the program right after this. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, I've got you solo with Brendan Dworzinski headed out to St. Mary's for our 580 Preps high school football game of the week tonight. That means I'll take you through the blue dot of Kansas headlines. We'll get you the Chiefs-Titans final injury report, a little World Series talk, and we got to talk about Kyrie Irving again, don't we? Also, we'll take a look at the NFL Sunday slate coming up, and I'll give you my best bets for the week. Not to toot my own horn too hard, but I did go 6-0 last week. So you might think maybe I'm due for a terrible week and decide to fade me, or you might want to ride me while I got a hot streak going. But I got those coming up too. That's all coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Hang with us here on 580 WIBW.
104.9.
Let's get it. Final hour of the day, final hour of the week on 580 Sports Talk. Hope everybody is enjoying their Friday, staying dry as best you're able on a rainy Friday in the capital city and surrounding area. Dan Lucero with you for this final hour of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski is setting up for tonight's 580 Preps high school football game of the week. It's the regional round of the state football playoffs. We've got Class 1A action for you tonight from St. Mary's as the host Bears take on Troy. Kickoff set for 7 o'clock. We'll have pregame coverage at 6:30 tonight on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. And, of course, we'll also carry the Kansas High School Football Scoreboard Show at 10 o'clock tonight on those same stations from the Kansas Information Network. So that's where he's at. This is where I am, joining you here on WIBW on FM 104.9. Online at 580WIBW.com and on the YouTube stream. And we've been having a little fun with that here today. So the control room for the video that we use, the video software, the control panel is located in the talk studio. I am seated in what is the radio control room. So I cannot both be behind the microphone and operate the control panel for the program. So you are, in effect, instead of seeing the nice, fancy, more 580 Sports Talk coming up graphic and the interstitial music that plays during the commercial breaks, when we have somebody in the talk studio to run that, you're just looking at me right now on our YouTube stream. And you can find that today and every day on our Twitter account, twitter.com/sportson580. or at YouTube, youtube.com/@sportson580. Subscribe to the page, by the way, if you haven't already, and you'll get all our video content, live and archived episodes of 580 Sports Talk, mic'd up, and all the other video stuff that we do. But anyhow, so we don't have the graphics, the graphic capability. So you're just getting a live shot of me, which is fine, like right now, because I'm talking to you. And that's all well and good. But like when we go to commercial, and it's silent, or I have to step out of the studio for whatever reason, we don't have the graphic that covers that up. So I've been doing a little bit of artwork. I've got a "We'll be right back" sign that I've hung on the microphone. Had a little graphic for our interview with Ty Zentner in the last hour. Or thanks again to Ty Zentner for taking the time to chat with Brendan and I. But we did. We're having a little fun with it as best we can. But we appreciate everybody checking us out on YouTube, hanging out with us, and we're glad you've enjoyed the little bits of levity that I've tried to bring exclusively to the live video stream. Here in the 5 o'clock hour of the show, gonna break down the NFL Sunday slate, go game by game, give you the spread, maybe a couple of games I like, maybe a couple of games I think are going to stink, tell you which ones we're going to be able to watch here locally in the Topeka area and surrounding. We'll also give you my best bets for the week. A listener, a texter from the 785. And by the way, the Big O Tires text line, very much open for business. Hit us up, 785-272-9429. 785-272-9429 is the Big O Tires text line. You can interact with me here throughout the final hour of this show. We have a listener from the 785 asking how I did on my best bets last week. I'm glad you asked. I didn't miss any. I was 6-0 last week. I gave you picks towards the end of last week's show. I gave you 6 picks, 3 college, 3 pro, and I got them all right. So we'll see if I can do that again for you. Maybe you can bet along with me and make some money. Or you can fade me this week and think, no way that knucklehead's going to do that twice in a row. And you're probably right, honestly. But we'll do our best bets a little bit later on in this hour as well. But we start the 5 o'clock hour, as we always do, with the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. Starting to get chilly. So you want to make sure that your home's HVAC system is all set to go. See them online at blue.kansas.com, not blue.kansas.com. No, blue.kansas.com. Blue, D-O-T, Kansas, dot, the period, com. I didn't realize until I was just reading it aloud, and this has been the same read for goodness knows how long. Just realized that maybe we've been telling people to go to blue.kansas.com. No. Blue.kansas.com. Go see what they can do for you to help keep your home comfortable for the upcoming winter. Let's go to those Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. We are going to start with the injury report, the final injury report, participation report for the Chiefs and the Titans on Sunday Night Football this coming Sunday. It is mostly good news for the Chiefs, as you'd expect coming off of a bye. There is one player who did not practice all week, and he will not play on Sunday. That is tight end Jody Fortson. He's been dealing with a quad injury and also an illness and was DNP all 3 days this week. So Fortson is out. It'll be one fewer tight end that the Chiefs dress. That could naturally be a spot for Kadarius Toney to be elevated to the active 53-man roster for Sunday's game. That kind of remains to be seen. Andy Reid being cagey today when asked about how they would use Toney, if they would use Toney, if he would play. But that would seem to be one obvious place where maybe he would be an active player, one of the active 53 for Sunday. Everybody else a full participant in practice today, including Willie Gay, Mike Dana, McCole Hardman, Trent McDuffie, Jerick McKinnon, Derek Nottie, and Prince Tega Winogo. All those players were also full participants yesterday. So nobody else with an injury designation. It's a pretty cut and dry injury report for the Chiefs. Fortson out, everybody else good to go. It is not so cut and dried for the Titans, who have a lengthy injury list and have already ruled 2 players out for Sunday. They are fullback Torrey Carter, who's dealing with a neck injury, and crucially, safety Amani Hooker, out with a shoulder injury. If you were listening to our conversation with Matt Derrick earlier, our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider, he thinks that's a big loss for the Titans. That Hooker is the kind of player that can help neutralize Travis Kelce, which is the kind of things that Mike Vrabel's Titans teams have done a pretty good job of doing in previous meetings against the Chiefs. But Hooker is out with a shoulder injury. He did not practice all week. 4 other players have injury designation. The headliners on this list, no huge deal, just the starting quarterback and their best defensive player. Ryan Tannehill, after not practicing Thursday, was limited today with that ankle injury, and he is listed as questionable. Reports are he'll be a game-time decision for Sunday night. Also, Jeffrey Simmons did not practice all week. 3 straight DNPs for the standout nose tackle for the Titans as he deals with an ankle injury. He is listed as questionable as well. Now, this is pretty similar to what he dealt with last week, and he did play, but it was on a limited basis. He only played 38 defensive snaps for the Titans last week, which was a season low, but he wreaked havoc in those 38 snaps. He had 7 quarterback pressures. Simmons also, reportedly, and not reportedly, he said it, came from his mouth on a radio show, pretty fired up about facing the Chiefs and thinks they're going to have no problem with their offensive line and looks forward to lining up against Joe Thuney and Trey Smith. And he is now the second Chiefs opponent to talk particularly about how that offensive line isn't all that special. And we know how that went for Tampa Bay when it was Shaq Barrett flapping his gums before that Sunday Night Football game. We'll see if it's a similar story for the Chiefs O-line against a hobbled Jeffrey Simmons. Also questionable, a couple of other defensive contributors. Bud Dupree, their best outside linebacker / edge rusher, didn't appear on the participation list Wednesday or Thursday, but is listed today as a DNP with an illness, and he is questionable for Sunday. So he must be awfully sick if he just all of a sudden appeared on the injured list. And maybe it's something going around because defensive tackle Naquan Jones was also on the list with an illness this week. He was a DNP Wednesday and Thursday, but a full participant today, and he has no injury designation. Also questionable for Sunday for the Titans, Kevin Strong, another defensive tackle. He has an ankle injury. He was limited Wednesday, Thursday, did not practice today. So he is questionable, and that may call into question the depth at defensive line for the Titans coming up on Sunday night. Ben Jones, the center for the Titans, was listed as limited today. Reason given was not injury related, but he is expected to play. He has no designation. Everybody else on the list practiced in full today. I already mentioned Naquan Jones. Guard Aaron Brewer, defensive tackle Sam Okweanonu. That is probably wrong. Full participant for outside linebacker Rashad Weaver, guard Nate Davis, nose tackle Tier Tart, and running back Derrick Henry, who was limited Wednesday and got a veteran rest day on Thursday. But that's how the injury report looks. Again, Fortson out for the Chiefs. Amani Hooker, their starting safety, one of the two, along with Kevin Byard, who make quite a safety pair, out, as is fullback Torrey Carter for the Titans. Ryan Tannehill, a game-time decision. If he can't go, it'll be the second straight start for rookie Malik Willis. Next, Blue Dot of Kansas headline. Let's talk some baseball. The World Series had Game 5 last night in Philadelphia. I know there are people who aren't watching this World Series for they've got their reasons. They're not that interested in these teams, or they can't stand the Houston Astros. I know we've got a few of those on the text line, believe me, that aren't enamored of the Houston Astros. Or for whatever reason, it's football season and they've just kind of tuned out on baseball. And that's fine and well and good. And you're all free to make your own decisions on what content it is that you consume. But if you're missing this World Series, you're missing a really fun World Series. Game 5 was a barn burner last night. Houston wins it 3-2, thanks to a couple of spectacular defensive plays. One in the 8th inning by replacement first baseman Trey Mancini, who somehow was able to glove a short hop rocket off the bat of Kyle Schwarber with the tying and go-ahead runs on base and 2 out in the bottom of the 8th. A potentially series-saving play for Mancini, who was only in the game because Yuli Gurriel, the regular first baseman for the Astros, appeared to injure himself when he was caught in a rundown between third and home earlier in the game. So Mancini, not a first baseman by trade, only out there because of injury, hugging the line, playing no doubles, and holding the runner on at first base, the go-ahead runner, somehow managed to stop that absolute missile off the bat of Schwarber. Then in the 9th inning with 1 out, JT Realmuto drove a ball to deep right center field, and Chas McCormick, the Astros center fielder, made a spectacular leaping catch at the wall. If he doesn't get it, it's at least 2, if not 3 bases for the speedy catcher for the Phillies. Realmuto would have put the tying run at second or third in scoring position one way or another with only 1 out there in the 9th. But McCormick made the play, and Ryan Presley was able to record, thanks to those 2 outstanding defensive plays, the 5-out save, moving the Astros 1 win away from their second World Series championship. They'll have 2 chances to win it, both of them in their home ballpark. Saturday night is Game 6. It'll be a 7:03 Central Time first pitch. Phillies are going back to Zach Wheeler, who has struggled in his most recent postseason starts, including in Game 2 of the World Series. But the rain delay got him an extra day's rest, and they are hoping he can bounce back. Houston counters with Game 2 hero Framber Valdez, the lefty who was stellar in 6 1/3 innings in his Game 2 victory. It's been a really fun World Series and really well played. And I think adding to it the atmosphere in Philadelphia, that is... It's a very passionate sports town. I don't know if I want to call it a great sports town. I have some quibbles with the way that Philadelphia fans have historically treated themselves and their teams and opposing fans and Santa Claus and all of that. But there's no question they're a passionate sports town. They know how to make some noise. And Citizens Bank Park was rocking for games 3 through 5. And that atmosphere really ratchets up how enjoyable the series can be. The crowds in Houston are good too, but they're not like that. They're not like what's going on in Philadelphia. That joint was jumping the last 3 nights and really did add to the atmosphere. And the Astros, after falling behind 2-1, they battled back. They had the combined no-hitter in Game 4. They win a 1-run ball game in Game 5. And it just goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the series. Houston's pitching is too good. The end of the day, they gave up a run in the 8th inning last night. Gene Segura had an RBI single off of Rafael Montero with 1 out in the inning that brought Presley in for that 5-out save. That's the first run the Astros bullpen has given up in the World Series. Those guys have been dynamite. And so you're not asking too much from your starters. That's a mistake that Dusty Baker's already made once, and it cost him game 1 when he left Justin Verlander out there too long. Verlander, a side note, his first World Series victory, his 18th career postseason victory, which puts him second all-time behind only Andy Pettitte, but it's his first one that comes in a World Series, which is pretty amazing given his outstanding career and the chances that he has had pitching in the Fall Classic. So it's been a good one. And an enjoyable one, and I expect it will be a great finish, however it ends in Houston. If Philadelphia can come back and win 2 straight on the road, that would be legendary stuff. If Houston takes care of business behind Framber Valdez in Game 6, Game 7 gets really interesting because the scheduled starter for Houston would be Lance McCullers Jr., and that can't happen. Like, if you watch Game 3, he can't pitch. So do you go to Christian Javier on short rest, or you just cobble it all together with your bullpen, ask for a couple innings from Luis Garcia, a couple from Jose Urquidy, if indeed it does go to Game 7? I'll be fascinated. I think the pressure's on Houston to win it in 6. I don't think they want any part of their pitching situation in Game 7. From the Big O Tires text line from the 785, hide the trash cans in the juice box, or the trash can lids in the juice box. I know. They're never going to escape the jokes. They're never going to escape the wrath as long as Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve are on the team, and possibly even beyond that. But the story of this Astros team, honestly, their offense kind of stinks. Like, it's real thin behind Kyle Tucker. I know the bottom of the order came through big for them last night, but it's real thin behind Kyle Tucker. They really miss Michael Brantley, their DH, who's been hurt and missed most of this season. The story is their pitching. And there is no amount of video-related cheating that can overcome how well this team pitches. And those dudes are really good. They're throwing gas. They're throwing it by guys. It's a really, really awesome pitching staff. Next up on our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines, it is one of the biggest stories in sports, and we always try and touch on the big stories in sports, whether they are sports that are hugely popular, like football, or sports that maybe aren't as popular in our listening audience, like the National Basketball Association. But this is a big deal story, and so we will touch on it here on the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. Last night, the Brooklyn Nets suspended guard Kyrie Irving for at least 5 games without pay, a period of time to be no less than 5 games without pay, because, as they stated it in their statement, we were dismayed today when given an opportunity in a media session that Kyrie refused to unequivocally say he has no anti-Semitic beliefs nor acknowledge specific hateful material in the film. The film, of course, is one that he tweeted the trailer of, or posted the trailer of, an extremely hateful and anti-Semitic film that can only be found on Amazon Prime. The statement continues from the Nets. This was not the first time he had the opportunity, but failed to clarify. Such failure to disavow anti-Semitism when given a clear opportunity to do so is deeply disturbing, is against the values of our organization, and constitutes conduct detrimental to the team. Accordingly, we are of the view that he is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. That is a turn of phrase you do not read every day from a pro sports team referring to one of its employees. Unfit to be associated. Meanwhile, Kyrie took to Instagram last night, and it looks like he's finally gotten the hint, because he includes 2 things in his Instagram post that, if he had included them in his public remarks yesterday morning, probably is in the lineup for the Nets in their very next game, which I think is tonight. In his Instagram post, Irving wrote, quote, "To all Jewish families and communities that are hurt and affected from my post, I am deeply sorry to have caused you pain, and I apologize. I initially reacted out of emotion to being unjustly labeled anti-Semitic instead of focusing on the healing process of my Jewish brothers and sisters that were hurt from the hateful remarks made in the documentary. I had no intention to disrespect any Jewish cultural history regarding the Holocaust or perpetuate any hate." How bad do you have to screw up when your public apology has to include, yeah, I'm sorry for what I said or alluded to in the Holocaust. Like, I am pretty certain I will never put my foot in my mouth that bad. It's really easy not to, like, call that into question. Anyhow, I am learning from this unfortunate event, Irving wrote, and hope we can find some understanding, or hope we can find understanding between us all. So, there's a lot to unpack here, and a lot of people who have done this in a better and smarter and more in-depth way than I can. I would point you all, if you have any sort of curiosity about any of this, to a conversation that ESPN's Pablo Torre had with Anscape's David Dennis. It is on the Debatable podcast, I believe, with Pablo Torre, and it is worth your time to understand just what is so hurtful and what is so out of bounds about the messages that Kyrie Irving has chosen to promote. I will sum up my thoughts on this as cleanly as I can. From the Big O Tires text line, that dude is bat crap crazy. Yeah, one way to put it. Also from the 785, may Kyrie be suspended the rest of the year? That apology was so fake, and he did it just so he could play. Another listener from the 785 points out that Kyrie suspended himself for 42 games a couple of seasons ago, last year. Yeah, suspended himself. That was his refusal to adhere to New York state law and be vaccinated against COVID-19. So Kyrie's thing is that he's a free thinker. That's the thing that he says about himself. And there is nothing wrong with being a free thinker. There is nothing wrong with Kyrie Irving or anyone having questions about their identity and their background and their religion or their place in the world. There are lots of questions you can ask, a lot of material you can research. I don't have any problem with anybody, just on general principle, who says that they are a free thinker. But too often, the people who claim to be free thinkers forget that being free of thought does not insulate you from being wrong about something and being called out for being wrong about something. And sometimes the best thing you can be if you want to be a free thinker is to be a free listener, because there is a lot of wildly ahistorical, flat out wrong, and absolutely poisonous stuff in that movie that Kyrie promoted on his social media. The title of which, by the way, is Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. I believe as of now it is still on Amazon Prime, though I think the Nets and the NBA have both reached out to Amazon, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic, and asked them to take that down, take the film down, or at the very least put a disclaimer on it. But so it's one thing to say that you are a free thinker, that you have questions about the world, you have questions about your identity, you have questions about your history. But when you are confronted with someone saying back to you, hey, that material you are reading or watching or absorbing or promoting, which as much as Kyrie Irving wants to say he's not promoting it, that's what you do. Anything you put on your social media, you're promoting, especially when you have a platform like Kyrie Irving does. When someone says back to you, hey, that's incorrect. Hey, that's harmful. And here is who it is harmful to. Here is specifically why it is harmful. Being a free thinker means listening to that and being accepting of that and not digging your heels in and saying, oh, I know the dictionary, which among some of the many ridiculous things Kyrie Irving said publicly yesterday, one of them was literally, I know the Oxford Dictionary, which is great. Look up anti-Semitism. Look up apology. Look up sincerity. But that is just my thing with Kyrie Irving. That's my thing with anybody, because there are a lot of people out there right now, a lot of very prominent people out there who believe themselves to be free thinkers and believe that being a free thinker insulates you from truth, because then whatever you think is inherently what must be true. But being a free thinker and listening and having dialogue and rejecting things that are plainly false and plainly hurtful, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can be both. It has felt at times, it felt this way last year, it feels this way now, that Kyrie Irving is more interested in becoming something like a martyr for his free thought than being a basketball player. And for the Brooklyn Nets, who have no contractual obligation to Kyrie Irving beyond this year and are a team, frankly, with a bad roster outside of him and Kevin Durant that is going nowhere, that has already fired its coach, who would blame the Nets at this point if they called Kyrie's bluff? Say, you want to be a martyr more than you want to be a basketball player? Fine. Go be a martyr or go be a basketball player somewhere else. But you're not going to be one here. You're not going to do this stuff. You're not going to promote this stuff on our company time. I hope his apology is sincere. I know. Yeah, I read the text from the Big O Tires text line that apology didn't seem sincere. The Anti-Defamation League is not buying it. Initially, the Nets said that they were going to donate $500,000 and that Kyrie Irving would match that $500,000 donation to the Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, the ADL said, no, we're not taking that money. We can't take that money from Kyrie Irving. We don't think he's serious. We don't think he's sincere. So I hope that someone gets into Kyrie Irving's ear, because the promotion of this stuff, this anti-Semitic stuff, the Holocaust isn't real stuff, like, genuinely harmful, particularly when it comes from somebody with a platform like him. And I hope somebody finally at some point gets in Kyrie Irving's ear and says, it's okay to be a free thinker, but man, you got to listen to. Because freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. Because if you start saying some wild stuff, somebody might decide that you are currently unfit to be associated with them, as the Brooklyn Nets did yesterday with Kyrie Irving. That wraps up our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. Again, brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. Check them out on the web. See what they can do for you. blue.kansas.com. A look at the NFL Sunday slate coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. It's 5:36 on 580 Sports Talk. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Friday afternoon. Big O Tires text line is open, 785-272-9429. Other than the Chiefs, which game are you the most excited about for this NFL Sunday slate? Let me know on the Big O Tires text line or in the comments of our YouTube stream. We are live on YouTube, youtube.com/@sportson580. You can find the live stream of this show. You can find the live stream of Mic'd Up when they're on. You can find the archives. We just started doing it this week, so we got a week's worth of shows. All of our other video content available at the YouTube page as well. youtube.com/@sportson580. For the early games on Sunday, your viewing options, if you are within the sound of my voice here in the Topeka area, the Bills and the Jets on CBS, the Chargers and the Falcons on Fox. It is a very fragmented Fox map. I think you get the Packer game if you get the Wichita local channels, but if you get Topeka and Kansas City locals, it'll be the Chargers and the Falcons. They think you really want to watch AFC West action. The Bills are 11.5-point favorites against the Jets. That feels low to me. The Jets are just a mess on offense. And I know Buffalo's defense hasn't been superb, and they've been dealing with some injuries, but Buffalo should be able to do whatever they want to do on both sides of the ball in that game, I would think. I would lay the 11.5, even on the road for the Bills against the Jets. And then the other game, we'll get to see the Chargers and the Falcons. The Falcons have played entertaining football games. So there's that. They're not real good. They did somehow beat the Panthers last week thanks to Eddie Piñeiro's missed field goals and missed extra point. Chargers are 3-point favorites going into that game. Doesn't sound like they're going to have Keenan Allen. They're still not ready to come back, which is really disappointing. I have no idea which way that game is going to go. Falcons have been really good at covering the spread all year, and they're at home. Might be wise to take the 3 points for them, but I have no feel for the Chargers right now, because that's a team that feels like they should be better than they are, but they just haven't been because their offense isn't any good. And it should be better, and it's not. And they should be better on defense, and they're not. I just don't know what to make of them. The end product is not matching the ingredients with the Chargers. Other early games on Sunday, the Colts at the Patriots. I like the under here a lot, especially with no Jonathan Taylor. He has been ruled out for the Colts, so this line has jumped a point. It's now the Patriots favored by 5.5 in that one, even though the Patriots just got thumped by the Bears, and they're very broken on offense. You'd like to think Bill Belichick could put something together to beat a rookie quarterback at home. And that's what they're dealing with Sam Ehlinger making his second NFL start. You got the Dolphins at the Bears. This line has fluctuated quite a bit. It's come back down a point today. It was Miami minus 5.5. It's gone down now to Miami minus 4.5. Bears have played well of late. Miami, really good on offense. Miami feels like the kind of team that they can score a bunch of points with their dynamic passing game and leave the Bears in the dust a little bit. I would expect Miami to win that game even on the road. Green Bay at Detroit. Hesitate to call games at this stage of the season a must-win. This is kind of a must-win for the Packers. They've got to get back on the winning track. They are 3.5-point favorites against the Lions team that can't stop anybody. If the Packers have trouble moving the ball against the Lions, it is DEFCON 1 for the Packers season if they can't move the ball and they get beat by the Lions. Minnesota at Washington. Washington, quiet as it's kept. I think they had the late win, the come from behind win. Taylor Heineke led the touchdown drive against Indianapolis. I don't think they played great in that game, but I feel like with Heineke under center and Brian Robinson back from getting shot in the preseason and joining Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick at running back, I think the Commanders are developing an identity on both sides of the ball. I don't think they're hugely talented, but I feel like they're going to be tough to play against week in, week out. The Vikings are 3-point road favorites. Tell you, waiting for the other shoe to drop with the Vikings at 6-1. Maybe this is the week. Carolina at Cincinnati. The Bengals are 7-point favorites in that one, despite the stink bomb they laid last time we saw them Monday night against the Browns. Bengals appeared to have no answers on offense with Jamar Chase out of the lineup. And, of course, he's on IR, so he won't play on Sunday. Panthers, meanwhile, played that rollicking game against the Falcons. P.J. Walker, a former XFL quarterback. Look, I don't care about that stuff, but if Brendan were here, that's what he would say. Former XFL quarterback, P.J. Walker. So I feel like I have to keep that in the universe. I actually kind of like under 42.5. Brendan likes the over. So we're in direct conflict in this one. I think the Panthers defense is actually kind of good. And I think the Panthers offense, I think PJ Walker come back to earth. So I think it'll be a low scoring game. I take the points with the Panthers. The Bengals did not show me that they can beat anybody by a touchdown the way they played on Monday night. Now they got a short week. I might be inclined to take the road dog and take that touchdown. And the last of the early games, the Raiders at the Jaguars. Raiders are 2.5-point favorites at Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville doesn't get the bye after the London game. Denver does, but Jacksonville doesn't. Maybe that contributes to Las Vegas being road favorites, despite the fact that, again, they did not run a play on the New Orleans side of the field until 3.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter in their shutout loss to the Saints last week. I think the Raiders stink, but the Jaguars, if there's a will to lose, there's a way to lose. And Jacksonville generally finds a way. I wouldn't bet that game with somebody else's money, with your money. I wouldn't do it. No chance. Wouldn't watch that game either with your eyeballs or mine. Afternoon slate. The national televised game is going to be the Rams and the Buccaneers. Everybody in the country will see that game. It will be on CBS. Yeah, 2 Fox teams or 2 NFC teams. Normally you'd think Fox. Nope, that's a CBS broadcast on Sunday afternoon. Again, the networks are loosening the longtime conference alignments moving forward. So get used to seeing big NFC games on CBS, I guess. I don't know. I'll never accept it. Buccaneers are 3-point favorites in that one. Man, the Rams just kind of feel broken. They can't block anybody. I think this feels like a game Tampa Bay gets back on track and wins at home. But certainly a game not nearly as sexy as it appeared it would be when the season began. The other afternoon game, Seattle is at Arizona. I spoke about this earlier. I can't believe Seattle beat Arizona 19-9 in Seattle 3 weeks ago. Arizona 1-1 since, but Seattle keeps getting better week by week. They're 1.5-point underdogs going to Arizona. I think Seattle wins that game outright. Then, of course, the Chiefs and the Titans. Sunday Night Football, we went over that at the top of the program, but I will reiterate here. I think if Ryan Tannehill plays, Tennessee can keep it within the 12.5. That's where the number is right now. It was briefly down at 11.5 this morning, went back up to 12.5. I think Tennessee can keep it within that number, as tough as they've played the Chiefs over recent years. But I think Kansas City's got too much talent. They're going to be able to spread the ball around. The Amani Hooker injury is a big deal for that Tennessee defense. And I just don't see Derrick Henry having the run wild kind of game he's going to need to have for Tennessee to keep up with Kansas City's offense. So I got the Chiefs winning, but I've got them winning by 11. I have Tennessee covering, but I said 28-17 Chiefs, and I stand by that. If Malik Willis plays, the Chiefs better cover 12.5. Because what we saw from start number 1 for Malik Willis was a quarterback very much not ready for prime time. And they'd just run a high school offense. And that worked against the Texans last week, and that would not work in prime time at Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs. No way. No way. No chance. If Willis plays, the Chiefs could win by 30. But that's your NFL Sunday slate. We'll take a quick break. I'll come back with my best bets for the weekend. I went 6-0 last week. Let's see if I can do it again. Maybe make you a little money. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. All right, so here's how this works. Every Friday, this time, I give you my best bets for the weekend. 3 college games, 3 pro games, mix of spreads and totals. I also give them out on my Twitter account, twitter.com/Dan Lucero Show. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I am 28-20 for the year, was 6-0 last week. So if you bet with me, you're making money. Let's see if we can make some more money this week, shall we? My college football best bets this week. Under 40.5 points in Air Force Army. 23 of the last 26 Service Academy games have gone under the total. I think it's going to be 24 or 27. Air Force Army under 40.5. Tennessee plus 8.5 against Georgia. It's the biggest game of the weekend. I think Tennessee being an 8.5-point dog as the number 1 team in the college football playoff rankings, a little bit disrespectful. If Georgia wins, it'll be close. If Tennessee wins, I don't need the points. So Tennessee plus 8.5 between the hedges. And I've got Baylor plus 3.5 at Oklahoma. I rode Oklahoma as a road dog last week. Now I'm picking against them as a home favorite this week. I don't think they got better. I just think Iowa State stinks out loud. Baylor, good enough on offense to stress test the Oklahoma defense, which is bummy. I like the Bears plus 3.5. My NFL picks for Sunday. Indianapolis, New England, under 40.5 points. No Jonathan Taylor for Indianapolis. Sam Ehlinger, second start. They scored 16 points last week. They'll struggle to do that against the New England defense. The Patriots have struggled on offense mightily. This is going to be a slog. I wouldn't want to watch it for any amount of money. I definitely think that's going under the total 40.5. Carolina, Cincinnati. Cincinnati, no clue what to do on offense without Jamar Chase. Carolina, boom or bust on offense, but they have a good defense. I got under the total on this one as well. The total 42.5. I'm going under. And I'm riding with my Seattle Seahawks. No emotional hedge here, baby. Seattle plus 1.5 at Arizona. Screw curses. Geno Smith is good, and the Cardinals aren't. Seattle wins, sweeps the season series with the Cardinals, plus 1.5. Those are my best bets for the weekend. And now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back. If your first bet doesn't win, just sign up with my promo code Lucero. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props, same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts for the biggest national and local games every day. And when you win, you get paid in a hurry. It's always fun to refresh the app after I have a bet hit and see that total go up in the corner on my account. All in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So sign up today with my promo code Lucero for your no-sweat first bet. That's Lucero. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets. It expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Back to wrap things up with the final word on 580 Sports Talk after this. We are wrapping up 580 Sports Talk for the day and for the week. Got a bit of an early jump on the bed there. It is the end of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. For my final word today, Kansas City Chiefs, Tennessee Titans. For whatever reason, they have been a fly in the Chiefs' ointment and a fly in Andy Reid's over the course of the last few years. Andy Reid's only ever got one win in the regular season over the Titans. Of course, maybe it doesn't feel that way because the Chiefs beat the Titans in the most meaningful game between the two teams, the AFC Championship game back in 2019 for the 2019 season. But Titans have been difficult to beat for the Chiefs. They will play them hard. They will play them smart. They will play them physically. But I just think the Chiefs have too much talent, and I'm not really all that concerned about the Chiefs losing on Sunday. Famous last words, I know, but I just don't see the Chiefs being held to a number offensively that the Titans are going to be good enough to get to with their own offense, because I think the Chiefs will do a good job on Derrick Henry. I think they are limited in the passing game regardless of who plays, and I expect a Chiefs victory. Even if it's not by 12.5 points or more, I still think the Chiefs take it on Sunday night. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show this week. We appreciate you all so very much. For Brendan Dworzinski, I am Dan Lucero. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Have a great weekend, everybody.